we should have probably talked about an intro again because I wasn't thinking about that. I was just gonna jump
Uh,
right into it, but is that lame?
no, we can do an intro again of like who we are, what we do. Probably couldn't hurt.
Yeah, that's all right. I just want to be anonymous, just some random dude that's just talking about a bunch of different stuff. I don't know. Uh, but
Do
yeah,
you?
no, I don't know. Otherwise, yeah, I'm Trent. Sorry. Uh, I am a director level product designer, and then I've been doing it for over a decade with a lot of other just random stuff, experience from different jobs, just different fields and things. And so I think a lot of that gets me interested in. It's not just design. There's a lot of interesting things that we could get into, and so I don't necessarily think of myself as just a designer. And so that's where a lot of this comes from, where I'm interested in. Yeah, there's lots of cool things going on. Anyway.
Yeah. When you learn about design, you realize that it's everywhere and there's a lot to it. So, I'm
Mm-hmm.
Maddie. I'm a senior level product designer, and I've been doing product design for like 5 years. And then before that, it was UI. And then before that, it was graphic design. And so I learned a lot about design history, but it's human history. Yeah. And
Yeah.
psychology
Yeah.
and philosophy. It's there's so much to design.
So much. I
Hmm.
mean, and that's where it's yeah, fun to think about. Okay, it's all interrelated. The human history, so like everything has been designed in some form.
Hmm.
You just anything that we look at, like right there's a hands in something.
Yep.
And some of this is like I mean, for the most part, we're probably talking about intentional design. I think we probably need to call out and recognize that like a lot of things are just unintentionally designed. It's still designed.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. The I'm going to I don't know. I'm going to switch over to this other thing.
I want to preface this with the reason we wanted to start streaming and having like a little podcast thing is because we used to work together, and when we had meetings, we would always get off on random tangents of things that are like related to design. Plus, both of us think like designers, and so we like to think through things and like work intentionally through every aspect of our life, not just the product we're designing, right? So, we realized that we just have a lot of interesting things to talk about, and we wanted to have a design-based podcast that talks about anything in life. And I had a friend ask me the question like, why does this podcast talk about like philosophy and psychology? And I was like, well, we have a philosophy, Trent and I, that everything in our humanity and our society is designed, like you said, whether intentional or not is up to debate. But if we don't realize how things are designed in our society, like everything from social media to the highway system to crop, like to, you know, everything, ads, we will live by someone else's design. So we have this philosophy that if you don't design your life, you'll live in someone else's. So
Yeah.
it's important to be aware and learn how design thinking is or applies to your life so that you can apply it to your own life and then live your life the way you want to, not just by happenstance of someone else. That
Yeah.
was a little rambly. Does that make sense?
No, I think that's good. I think that sums it up pretty nicely. Um,
Yeah. Okay, cool.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know that I really have anything to add. It's good.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I would just add the reason psychology comes into play with design is because um designs, even graphic designs, colors, anything like that affects our psychology. Especially I think social media is a big example of how the way a product is designed can affect your psychology and your mental health. So we want to become aware of the psychology of design and how it affects our brain so that we can better control it and even utilize
It's,
it. Like we can utilize design thinking to incentivize our own psychology to do things that are more productive instead of scrolling and being addicted to our phones and sitting in traffic or whatever. We can motivate our psychology using design to go to the gym and cook and use design to do productive things instead.
yeah, like it's really interesting that when you talk about color. I
Yeah.
mean, some of this is even things that are just baked into us, right? It's like certain colors, the emotions that colors evoke. I mean, there's always the debate of nature versus nurture, and I don't know what came out in evolution versus what is purely just taught from the societal standpoint. But it's like red's hot, blue's cold. We see that in nature too, so it's kind of like or at least can see it in nature oftentimes.
Yeah.
And so some of these things, but and then it's the tapping into those things, right? So it's like being able to understand how those things affect stuff, so that when you're wanting to communicate certain things, you're actually tapping into the psychology to better communicate
Yeah.
and to get down to
Yeah,
that.
it's really cool. I love it. I love
Yeah.
psychology of design and okay, so what else did we want to talk about?
I would say the philosophy side, just I think a good example is like ethics in design,
Ah, yes.
because that's one that
Propaganda is a good
propaganda.
example of ethical design.
Yeah, there's an example I heard of a brand. If you're logo, a logo designer who's going to do a mark for a company, and they want to give the appearance or the sentiment that they're much older than they are,
Mm-hmm.
that they've been around much longer and much more established and stuff, right? I mean, even that can get into ethics and the
Yeah.
design of that. So yeah, it's philosophy. Even having that discussion about like, well, or maybe you're a freelance designer for something, and it's a company that is questionable to your morals,
Mm-hmm.
right? What do you do? Do you take the job anyway? Do you say
Yeah.
no? What's
Do
okay or
you
what's
really want
not?
to make ads for a company that's promoting something that you don't agree with?
Mm-hmm.
Do you really want to design an amazing brand that makes this company look wholesome and more established than it really is when you don't believe that? Yeah.
Yeah. So
That is the
yeah,
conundrum.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But it's So I mean, yeah, high level, the psychology, philosophy, all those things, and then it's like you're saying, it's just way more interesting to be thinking about it that way. But then when you start looking at it from that angle, and being designers, where we're kind of thinking those terms of like design thinking, right? Where it's like how we approach problems and solving problems, um, or even communicating too, like because we can apply all this stuff to even just like visual design,
Hmm.
trying to relate that into some other form of communication, right? The processes that happen.
Yeah.
That's probably
Do
two.
you want to talk about the different forms of design or what design looks like? Because I know I was talking about how a lot of people, when they hear the word design, they think of either graphic design and some kid on Photoshop, or they think of like designer handbags. But design is literally in everything from anything that humans interacted with all the way back to like the design of a tool in the Stone Age. I think you were saying something like that. Like, and then when we
Yeah,
started to design crop fields, when we started doing what was that revolution? The
agricultural revolution.
agricultural?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's when we went from like hunter-gatherers to like farmers.
Yeah,
That's a
just
design.
yeah. Have you? So yeah, like going all the way back to like stone tools, right? The
Hmm.
first time and he goes and picks up a rock to smash, open a coconut sort of thing. Or
Hmm.
I don't know. I assume that that's probably how it kind of began and stuff. And then they start noticing that some rocks are better, and then they start figuring out why some rocks are better, and then through that design, it's
Yeah,
start
start
understanding it
actually
better.
chipping the rocks in a way that it would work in a different way, and like product design almost at like the
Oh
most
yeah, for
basic
sure.
level.
Well, because
Yeah.
probably the next thing after like finding out how to, this is all obviously conjecture, but finding out how to make it sharper, I get like the next one's probably comfort, right?
Mm-hmm.
Function, form, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So and all
Yeah.
that's design. So all those things. But yeah, and then agricultural revolution, right? It's have you seen the pictures of what fruit used to look like?
Yeah. And they were like tiny and sour and full of seeds.
Yeah, it's like there's like not much meat, and like it would be
Yeah.
like I know very few people who would probably actually eat those for real,
Mm-hmm.
if that's what we actually had today and stuff. But like even
Yeah.
that has been designed over time. But
Yeah.
no,
Genetic modification is designing fruit to be better,
yeah,
right?
taking
Mm-hmm.
like the the good branches, grafting them onto the good trees or whatever, some process, whatever they're doing for all that. But then also the structure of the fields, how they would line
Mm,
them up, get them so that they can be producing more, get them in rows so it's more
yeah.
efficient for different
Yeah.
stuff. Uh,
I think
yeah.
city and like um urban design is also really interesting. Like how they would lay out a city and the roads, and they had like the town center in the middle. Every city does it differently.
Oh yeah, like the poop canal for London, right? That's like this whole
Yeah.
that was like a huge technological
That's
revolution.
amazing design.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Just to be able to get human feces out of the city, like that's
Mhm.
an ever increasingly large city. Yeah, it's crazy. Um, but so yeah, so all throughout history, like this keeps going through. But the different types, though, also when we're thinking about this, is that's like technology. There's also like self-expression. Uh,
Yeah.
Going way back again, cave paintings,
Mhm.
right? Like I mean, yeah.
It's like,
Even
why would people who are just fighting to survive and gather food and water be making art?
yeah,
I
or
always think
even
about that.
like it could
It's
be
so
art, it could be
interesting.
storytelling, like which is
Storytelling, it could be like a design of, this is how
history.
we're gonna do the hunt. This
Oh
is how
yeah,
we're gonna
a
plan it
guide.
out.
Yeah, field guide.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, instructional design. Yeah, way back
Yeah.
then even. Yeah. Um,
Right? Teaching the little cave babies, like, this is what your daddy did, and we started over here, and then we hunted these bison or whatever with our spears, and they're like drawing it out while they're stuck in the cave for the winter. That's what I imagine.
yes,
I don't know if that's true, but it's fun to imagine that.
with all
I love
their.
art. I love design. I think the debate of what is art versus design is also really interesting.
Oh, it is well because that's where this like self-expression thing kind of really crops up too, right? Because it's like
Hmm.
jewelry. Jewelry can be art, but it can also be I don't know. Is it ever functional? Is there functional jewelry? There's got to be
Yeah, I have a
sunglasses.
ring. I have a ring that takes my heartbeat and monitors
Oh yeah.
my sleep.
What about like
Sunglasses.
way back
Yeah.
when? What about like maybe not prehistoric times?
Oh, I
Maybe
think the function of jewelry way back then is like maybe just a sign of um wealth,
oh, so like
and
a social status sort of thing.
yeah, social
Yeah, it's just
status.
like
That
yeah,
has a function.
mm-hmm.
And then I
Yeah,
think people
interesting.
are kind of, what's the word? Superstitious. I think people sometimes wear jewelry because it like brings good vibes or something. But yeah. Mood rings are functional, right? Tell you what mood you're in. I think a lot of design has to be functional and artistic when it comes to fashion, because if it's unwearable or super uncomfortable, people don't care how cool it looks. And at the same time, if it's super comfortable but they feel ugly in it, people aren't gonna wear it.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. So even in the art of it, there's still like that design because it just kind of has to be. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's interesting. That functional side of it to the
Yeah.
art.
I think that's
Yeah.
why I actually started as an artist, and I loved art as a kid and drawing and whatever. But I got into college and I started leaning towards design because I liked the more functional side of it. I liked that you can use graphic design to like influence people and help companies grow and promote a brand or whatever. I liked that part. And I do enjoy self-expression for my own self, and I still like to paint and play music and stuff, but I think that there's a huge need for ethical designers in the world right now, so that's kind of where I went.
Sorry, just really quick. I was going to try to switch out an audio thing for you, and so that's why I'm quiet right now. But I don't know if it's gonna work, so I'm just gonna not worry about it, I guess. But
Yeah.
oh no, wait, I can do. Okay, I'm very sorry. Let me do.
Oh, you're good. I'm gonna talk to the chat for a second.
Oh yeah.
Rings are never more comfortable than no rings, though. Yeah. Well, a lot of things people wear, they do it for status instead of comfort. I would argue, especially like high heels or something like that. Like those were purely for aesthetics. Those were not something you would ever need to wear to like hike a mountain or something. Hey Megan, are you still here by the way? Or Ref? Hello, welcome. No clothes more comfortable than clothes then? That's not always true either though, you're right. Cuz if you're freezing in the Alps, having a warm coat is definitely better than no clothes. Would either of you guys want to be a moderator? I don't have any mods for this channel and I don't know how to do it. Because there's random messages that will pop in and that we need deleted. Did I do that wrong? Mod. The king making. These are my friends, by the way. Hi, Trent.
Hey.
Macon is the. What's your title again? Like a designer for. You told me. Engineering designer.
Oh yeah, you said that before. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's cool. The engineering designer for what? It was.
He was making like boat parts or something, right? Swapping to mechanical engineering tune. What's the difference? Mechanical engineering. Oh yeah, I was asking him. I'm like, do you work with a designer or do you just design it
Mm,
yourself? I think with that type of design, it's way more utilitarian than expressive. It's like we don't really care how it looks, it just needs to work, which can still be beautiful. I think having good form um comes with understanding the function, right? A pontoon company, that's pretty cool.
yeah, I was gonna say that'd be fun.
Yeah. Is more math based. Oh, mechanical engineering is more math based and functionality instead of how something looks. Yeah. Okay.
So what would be the part that would worry about the form of it? Where does that come in?
Form instead of function, instead of purely function.
Well, because they're saying it was math based and functionality instead of how something looks, right? So I'm wondering. Well, I mean, at some point, there is some part of it to how it looks. Is there a specific like I don't know? Is there a part that cares about that? Are there like some? Is that like a field that does the form side of
That'd be
mechanical
the
engineering?
engineering designer, right? Engineering designer or the product designer if they're selling it.
Well, yeah, but I'm wondering like the actual mechanical engineer. Like, does it ever come in for them? Does it? At what point does that matter?
Yeah, the question would be, do you ever design something purely for looks, or is it only functional, right?
Well, no, I think I'm like layering on the form on top of it. So it's like, all
Does
right, so
the
you got the math-based
form,
functionality side of it, but then
uh-huh.
is there some parts that maybe not for, the pontoon, but, if there's that, I don't know, just any other company, they might have, I don't know. I'm trying to feel out if there's something that I don't know about that,
I
but
think I think I get what you're asking. It's like, do you ever have the base like function
mm,
formed? Like this works really well because of XYZ, and it completes the task. And then can you add a little flair to it with the form, right? Can you design it past just the function?
yeah, saying industrial designer. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think when I was in graphic design school instead of just like art school, people a lot of my older professors were like form, meaning the way something looks in this case, should always follow function, meaning what it's trying to do. So if you're creating a advertisement for a concert, the it should look like a concert. It should have all the information people need. It should, the form of it should never outdo the function. So you shouldn't over design something in a way that people can't figure out what the poster is trying to say.
Mm,
And I
mm-hmm.
think I agree with that in most cases. But then I think you have to add a little bit of flair to it and make it look more interesting, or else people aren't going to care. Like you can just have a poster that says concert this day, this price, this time. But
Mm-hmm.
no one's going to look at it. No one's going to care. But you also see concert designs that are so illustrated that you're like trying to find the information and you're like, what the hell? Have you seen those?
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah. So I think I agree that in most cases, if it's an informational thing or a structural thing or something that's supposed to help people get a job done, the form should always follow the function. But in art, I think function doesn't super matter because it's up to interpretation.
I can see that. I can
Yeah.
see that being. Yeah. What I mean, you brought up a good example with the railing, because the railing is going to be something that does should look. Well, I mean, it doesn't need to be, right? But in this case, have it unique and appealing to customers. Keep changing the design every
Yeah.
year. I'm assuming the pontoon. Yeah, like it's so there's something that it matters for. Anyway, I don't know. But
I
yeah,
think
definitely
the
functionality.
function of that making it look cool and appealing to customers is to sell it, not necessarily to like go faster or, work better as a boat. But it still has a function, you could argue, which is to appeal to customers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, you'd have to work under certain constraints for most things that you would design. I always think about the design of freeways and roads.
What about them?
Is it I just am always in traffic when I drive home from work. And I
Yeah.
just can't help but think someone effed up on this design. like, and I know you can't always, anticipate how many users there will be. And in this case, the users are drivers or whatever of the road. Um, but I'm always just wondering, like, who decided to build it this way? Who decided to do the construction in such a way where a whole lane has to be closed for a month? Like, is there other ways we could design this that it would be better? Yeah, fully autonomous vehicles would be really cool because then they could all sync with each other and it would be like a train going down instead of all, individual cars.
At that point, let's just have trains.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
Also
No.
that, it's really interesting. I live in a city where they decided to give X amount of money, which was a ton of money, to expand the highway by 1 lane. This is
They,
so much money and so much time. And I was like, why didn't you just make a bullet train? Like,
I
why didn't you just make a train that was faster? Like, I don't know. Pisses me off.
New York City, where things happen on trains. Yeah.
Can see that.
So it's the spice of life, right?
Yeah.
Weird stuff happening on trains.
Yeah. Things not going according to design either is the spice of life.
Yeah, fully autonomous cars is pretty far off because it's uh, amount of
Yeah.
security and risk involved. Yeah.
But we are not far off from having fast public transport. It's just that in America, people don't like to invest in that very often.
Yeah. Well, we're really spread out, so it makes it more difficult because it's where the cities are more built up on top of each other and everyone's more compact. It's easier to get to the starting points for the trains, but
Yeah. Japan is an interesting case of like the bullet trains because they've built a really good system that goes from all the way to the top of the island to the bottom, and they're fast enough where it's like more efficient than using cars.
do you know how many lengths of track you would need to go across the states with that same amount of track? If you took that track
Oh,
from Japan and then place it, how many times you need to place it to make up the
I
length?
don't know. I know that the US is way better, way bigger. I mean, not better. It's not better. That
That was
was
a
my
slip.
programming. That was the design of someone else coming out. No, but it would take a long time. But even if they just had one going in California, because the traffic in California is insane.
Hmm.
And New York is a little bit better with public transport, but
So let's see. California. I thought California did have one, or they're at least building. Oh, they got money for
I
one.
think they
Something.
are in the process.
Florida
They're
has one.
doing like underground
Actually,
public
Florida's not a bullet,
transportation.
probably though. Yeah, I
Probably
actually
not.
don't know. I don't know. But yeah,
I don't know.
but starting points, getting onto them though. Yeah, it's like we're very spread out. The
Yeah.
trains would be tough for that. I love
The
trains otherwise
annoying
though.
thing is in Utah we have a train going through the big cities, sorry. Um, but it's so freaking slow. It goes slower than just driving, even in traffic. And
Yeah,
I'm
but
like,
getting from the stop, what
come
would be
on.
like the closest stop you could use, and then how far would that be from where you need to go? Because
Oh,
it,
getting to the train is annoying, yes.
yeah, it's like
But
they don't work
sitting
unless you
in
have
traffic
walkable
is
areas.
terrible. I kind of agree with that. In my city, you could take a bus to the train station. But again, that takes way longer than just like getting an Uber.
Hmm.
I don't know. The design of public transportation and roads in America, I think about it.
That's that's a
I
big
think
one.
about it a lot.
Yeah. Oh, the design of like, yeah, we're gonna have well, and maybe it's a chicken egg situation. Actually, it's probably not, but the vehicles, having vehicles, we had such wide open spaces. We probably needed the
Yeah.
individual transport a bit more because people want to spread out. So we probably didn't actually need it. Never mind. People just wanted their individual vehicles and stuff.
Yeah, I think people still do. It's just it's been interesting to see Utah grow over the past decade maybe, like pretty a lot. Like it's grown a lot. A lot of people from California came here during the pandemic. We have the highest birth rate and everything. Um and the roads, I just feel like I drive all in near Salt Lake and I'm like this looks like LA right now. Like the traffic and it's not gonna get any better, I don't think. I think there is places like Iowa, yes, that you wouldn't really want a public transportation system or you wouldn't need one. Um, but in bigger like industrial and tech cities, you they could be really helpful where people are more condensed, like you said, and more walkable areas.
Without all the suburban sprawl.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
rural sprawl, but it's functional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
What
suburban
else?
sprawl is definitely not functional. I mean, it kind of
No,
is. It's a status. It's not
it's a
status.
status thing.
It's also space and whatever. Yeah, all the stuff that we build up.
Wait, when you're saying suburban sprawl, you mean like how far apart like people's houses are in a neighborhood in a
Yeah,
suburb?
yeah,
Yeah.
just how much space we give to individual homes, and
Houses.
probably for even spaces that aren't even used, like yeah, grass lawns. How much are those used by people?
Lawns are the dumbest design ever. Do you know why we have lawns in America? Do you know where that comes from?
Well, yeah, it was like a royalty thing,
Yeah,
something or other, right?
in England, they had these lush lawns with like those hedge mazes and stuff.
Mm.
And then people came to America and they were like, "We are all royalty. Everybody gets a goddamn lawn." And so we
American
we
dream.
do. American dream. And so everyone has a freaking lawn to take care of. And if you have the best lawn, you're the coolest dad. But
My grass is
contrary to
not.
what you might think, lawns are actually worse for the environment than just having nothing. Like because in states like Utah, which is a desert, and people still have lawns, you're using a lot of water that is just a waste. Like you could be planting natural vegetation that doesn't need like hardly any water and yet people still need their big old lawns. So we're wasting a bunch of water and then we're also spraying it full of chemicals that get released into the air and are bad for the environment.
Bad for soil.
So, yeah, it's bad for the soil and it's bad for like the bugs and the everything.
Hmm.
The natural vegetation too. They
Yeah.
are pretty. I won't argue that they're pretty, but they're stupid. Especially
Exactly.
mine. I have a lawn and I hate it. I don't have secondary water and I
Hmm.
also don't have sprinklers. But if I don't water it, it looks like shit because we live in Utah. They
Hmm.
can't just like grow. Um so I'm trying to kind of keep it alive like as much as I can and I've planted some clover to like help fill in the green and it uses less water. But eventually I do want to rip out the sod and replace it with like rocks and desert plants.
Yeah, do it. I want to do the same. And yeah, like especially every time, because I go and take care of my own lawn. And like,
Yeah,
I don't know if any of my other neighbors do. I think I'm the only one on my street that takes care
that
of.
takes care of your lawn.
I swear, like
Yeah,
everybody else has a lawn
people
service.
are sick of it. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, but like
Yeah,
somebody working 4+ hours a day on it. I bet it looks awesome though.
I bet it
A
does.
lawn,
This is
but
an example of if you don't design your own life, someone else will design it for you or already has.
mm, yeah,
The
that's a good
American
point.
lawns, dude. You
Yeah.
can just move into a house and be like, well, I have a lawn now. I'm going to take care of it. And I'm going to spend a bunch on my water bill and install sprinklers and do all this, or hire somebody to do it. Or you can be like, how can I design this better? And then xeriscape it, whatever it's called. Like
Mm.
me, that's what I'm going to do. But that also costs a lot of money. But I think in
Oh
the
yeah.
long run, it would be
That's
worth it.
mine slowly becoming crabgrass and yeah. I'm just gonna actually end up planting some trees and then I don't know. I'm gonna like cut back how much grass I actually have though. Eventually, when I get out there
I
and start working on it.
it's kind of fulfilling. I will admit, making like taking care of your lawn and cutting the grass and seeing how nice it looks afterward is kind of nice.
Mm.
But
But that's
yeah, if
conditioning.
you don't
It's just
enjoy
conditioning.
it, maybe it's conditioning. If you're like me and you're like, I would rather never cut a lawn in my life, then don't. Design your life better, optimize it so you don't have to do things you don't want to do.
Yeah, unless you live in an HOA and then you have to.
Well, that's your fault. You chose to live in an
I designed it
HOA,
this
right?
way. Damn it. Yeah. Too bad. Yeah. Yeah.
It's something to think about when you move or whatever. I will say I'm happy to have a house. I'm glad to have a lawn. I know this is like what do they call it? Champagne problems? First world
Never heard
problems.
that. First world problems. I've heard that.
But I'm all about optimizing the design of my house. I know you're into that too. You're like, what was your example of the mail?
Oh, I've actually got a better one. Um,
Okay.
I should find the picture and put this up. So my daughter wanted to. She likes to just make random stuff. Like it's great. She'll find just plastic things that look interesting, like plastic packaging that looks interesting, and she'll go make something out of it. And it's
Cool.
like she'll paint it or she'll cut it up and add it to stuff, and just lots of different, just random things. Anyway, so she's been wanting to collect a bunch of the pop tabs, soda can tabs. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Open.
Hmm. They have
So
like a little logo on them.
no, just the tab, like to pop open your cans,
Oh, the yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
tabs. Yeah.
Okay.
So she wanted to collect a bunch of those so that she could make this like hand jewelry thing. I don't know what it's
Okay.
gonna look like yet, but so anyway, so she
Cool.
whatever it was, but she put out a dish or something and set this dish like kind of back on the counter where the recycling's at. Um, and then just told everybody, she's like, hey, start putting all these tabs in there. And then for like a couple of days, she was like always catch people putting cans in the recycling that didn't take out the tabs and put them in. And she was like, go after
Hmm.
you. It's like, hey, you didn't take out the tab, can you do it? It's like, okay, yeah,
Rude.
sorry, I'll work on
Yeah.
that. Anyway, so finally, like it happened to me a couple of times and stuff, and I was feeling bad. So again, just design the process and stuff. Started looking at it. We took the dish. She ended up putting a little sign on it. It's like it's cute design and stuff, or a sign. And then she wrote another one and taped it on and put all this stuff. And then she's placed it right in front of where we pull. We have a pull-out drawer for the garbage and the recycling, and set it right on the counter, right in front of
Smart.
that. Right. So now it's right in the way and all that stuff. Um, and yeah, so it's like this. The thing starts overflowing. We drink way too much soda here in our house. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
before long, it's like it's overflowing and stuff because eventually we filled up that little dish that she had out there and stuff. And so it's like it works like that. That was the thing that did it. Nothing else changed. She just made it easier. She was trying to change our behavior, right? But instead of like forcing us to like change all this stuff about it, she found a way to put something in our way. So she still was able to change our behavior, but do it in a way that it was like we didn't really think about it so much.
Yeah, it
If
was
that,
more natural to what you would already be doing. Yeah. You don't
yeah.
have to go out of your way. Yeah, I love that.
Thanks for the
That's what a
follow.
lot of
It's
user
great.
experience design is like doing things that are intuitive to
Mm.
the user.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's making it easier because you can try to force that behavior however you want, right? But it's you just probably don't understand the people enough,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
goes back to the psychology and all those things too, right? It's like, what are these people doing? Why are they? How do they think? How are they going about this stuff? Why
Hmm.
would this one thing not work? Like, what would actually be the thing that gets in front of them or change that behavior
Yeah.
without them needing to change anything, sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I love that. And your original one was like if you have a cute mail bin and you want everyone to put the mail in the bin after they bring it inside, but everyone just leaves it on the table right next to the door,
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to force people, yeah, to go put it in the mail bin, just put the mail bin by the door.
Yeah, just
Sometimes you need to like adjust your design to what people are naturally doing. Another good example of that is when you see footpaths right next to like an actual trail that someone has designed. You know what I'm talking about? It's
mm-hmm.
like there's an actual name for them, but someone will make this really cool trail with cement and then people just go this way because it's a faster shortcut. I
Oh,
saw it at my college a lot.
yeah. On Reddit, there's like a subreddit for this. Uh,
Yeah.
oh, what was it called? Anyway, yeah. If I think of it.
And that's why you have to learn about human psychology. Oh, it's called like a desired path. Yeah.
Oh,
You have to
desired
think
path.
about
Yeah.
human psychology when you're making something or designing something because you can't do something that's contrary to what people are. I mean, you can try, like you said, you can try to like reinforce them and change their psychology and change their habits, but when you're doing product design, it's better to do the research of like what are people already doing? How are they already solving this problem?
Mm-hmm.
Here's here's one. I put it in our Fig Jam if you want to share that.
All
I don't know
right.
if it's up already, but
Yeah, she is going to. She's gonna teach us. Oh, there we go. Wait, there. Yeah. What were they trying to fill it in? Yeah. No, what? I mean, they'll end up having like a to the left of it. Yeah.
Cover the
Oh,
like close the gap there. There's a lot of ways you could have probably solved that.
sorry.
Yeah, desired paths
I
are
had your
interesting.
audio get cut out. My bad.
Oh, just now or like forever?
Just when I switched over to show this thing. Sorry. You can talk about the desired path again.
Oh, oh yeah.
My
I was
bad.
just saying it's so funny that they tried to like reinforce this path that nobody wanted to use by like cutting it off when they could have just built a path here or actually closed it. I feel like people still might step over that little fence though. I don't know.
The last 30 minutes, I think he's a liar.
It's funny when people get mad at people doing things that are more natural just because they designed it a certain way and they want people to do it that way.
Yeah. Well, it's that forcing behavior, right? He's trying to
I
force
was
it.
muted for 30 minutes.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think he's lying because we've only been doing this for like 40 something.
Okay. Can't hear you. Oopsies.
Yeah, my bad. It's when I switch over to this, the yeah. Again, I'm trying to figure this out. It's the OBS. It's the software.
Yeah, we're new. This is only
Gotta
our
figure this
second
thing.
stream, our second episode or whatever. But thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for
Yeah,
the views and the follows.
OBS it's been fun to figure out. I've got like
So fun.
my naming and stuff's all over too, so it's like I don't even know. It's just I feel like this is the equivalent of having some like duct tape sort of something.
Yeah. I felt like that the whole time I was streaming on my last account. I'm like everything is kind of shitty right now.
I'll get it.
It's not a stream if there's not some scuff in it. That's what I would say.
Yeah, get it figured out. It's good.
Okay. Oh, another cool design is language design. And
Hmm.
I think you had something written about that. What were you going to say about that?
Yeah, I've got to find that again. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Um, letter design, number design. I love that stuff. Uh-oh, we're black. Technical
Oh, that's so
difficulties.
weird. My bad. Yeah.
No, you're good.
No,
I
what?
actually need to run to the bathroom really quick. Ooh, I love logo design. What do you like about it, Macon? I'll be right back.
Baskin Robbins logo design. Yeah, that's the 31. Trying to pull it up. See, if I was faster with all these things. Copy. Okay. That one. How do they have it? Do they actually have a daily special? Are you saying they don't have one? How do they not have one? I know. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking about too. It's like, yeah, I mean, do they always have 31? Will they not do anything else? We were just looking at the Baskin Robbins 31.
Oh yeah. It's a BR and a 31.
Yeah.
I think I want part of me, the skeptical part of me is like, how much of it do they actually have 31 flavors and how much of it did they just come up with that because the design looked cool of the logo? Which came first? I've never gone into a Baskin Robbins and counted the flavors though, to be fair.
Yeah, or hold them to it. Well, now I'm
That'd
curious.
be
Like,
funny.
yeah, was it just because it was like 31 flavors at the time, and so like,
I don't know. Or did the designer write the B and the R and see the number 31 in it and be like, it'd be cool. I don't know.
do they even go by
You like,
Baskin Robbins 31, or is it just Baskin Robbins now? The 31 is just like a hallmark,
I
maybe.
don't know. Oh, do you like the old one better? I do like, well, I guess they're similar.
Oh, I remember the old one. Yeah, it was like the
Yeah, it was more poppy, like
like confetti.
cartoony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the new one's like, I don't know what, old timey. Oh, they've had a lot of different logos. Oh, okay. 31 actually came first, according to the old logos, because people didn't start combining the BNR and the 31 until 2006.
Wait, what
Look
do
at
you?
that.
Oh, let me pull it back up.
So I guess they had 31 flavors back in 1953, and then they came up with this logo with the 31, and then they decided to combine them, right?
Hmm.
I do kind of like this one more than this one, though. The 2006 one more than the 2022 one.
It's funny. I don't like this is the one that I would have saw most often growing up because I know right where the Baskin Robbins was growing up, but like this is the one I actually like think about. That's so weird.
That is weird because I think about the second one or the fourth one.
Hmm.
I don't remember this one at all.
It's so
That's
weird.
interesting.
Yeah.
Trent is aging himself. Uh-oh.
I should have said that. Just
It's okay.
gonna try
I
to come up
actually
with some.
do. I want to do an episode about aging. Not like because you're older than me, just the psychology of it and like how people monetize it and try to like sell looking younger and stuff like that. I think that'd be an interesting episode.
I remember the first design.
I don't think you're that old.
I'm pretty old.
No, you don't remember the 1953 design.
It's 1980. I could have
This
been born
one.
in like the 70s.
Maybe.
Is makeup a scam?
Um, makeup. No, it depends on the makeup. I think that it is an annoying societal pressure, but I think we're to a point where you don't have to wear makeup
You
as a
think so?
woman unless you're really ugly. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't know. That I'll have to think about that. I think anti-aging propaganda is a scam, and I think a lot of the products don't do anything.
So
A scam for
if you were to yeah scam for who? If you were to like thought experiment, if uh, everyone could have been born in a time when nobody wore makeup, and then people started wearing makeup, what would that end up feeling like? Would that be like a ooh, that's actually kind of nice, or would that be like a weird like what the like you just look like a clown? Any
I don't
makeup on your face would
know.
look like a clown at that point, or would it be like a it's kind of nice, right? Because it's
I
like
think
makeup looks good if done right and on the right, but
yeah.
it's like is that training?
Yeah, I don't know because if I am remembering right, I feel like I remember learning that makeup was originally worn by like men especially in like ancient Egypt. But
Oh,
it
that's
was like
right.
jewelry. It was jewelry. It was like a societal what did you call it? Status symbol kind of. Um,
Hmm.
and then later on, even in like England, men would wear makeup, but I don't remember if that was a status symbol or
Well, they did
just
all the
a
powdered stuff. It was the pale skin. I think
yeah,
was a status symbol because it means you didn't have to
yeah,
work in the fields. You could be inside all day.
that's right.
And
Oh
so
yeah, I
they'd
think
powder
that's
their
similar in
faces to,
Asia too. They would like
yeah.
have white faces. So yeah, okay.
I mean, that's still kind of a
Yeah.
big thing around. Like, yeah, a lot of people, it's like they'll always wear the big hats and stuff. Or, like I know some people they don't want to go in the sun ever because they don't want to get any sort of tan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting.
Like geishas.
Yeah. I don't know. I think women are more subject to like beauty standards. And I think that could be a scam in some ways because they make you feel like, oh, if it's like the I've heard somebody say the goal in a what's our economic system again?
Capitalist
Capitalist
imperialism.
society. Yes, like the goal of capitalism is like to create a problem and then solve that same problem. Oh, they make you think that having under eye bags is a problem, even though you didn't originally think it was a problem. But guess what? Good news. We have a makeup that will solve your under eye bag problem or, a product or whatever. And so they like create an insecurity and then they solve it by selling you something. And I
Yeah,
hate that.
yeah. It's sorry. I was just thinking about. I had a thought and then I didn't choose to not tan. Life chose me. That's how I feel.
The pale life chose
Yes,
me.
tanning is difficult.
Yeah. I don't think it was weird too because there was a time in American history where being tan was the status symbol and tanning beds are huge and fake tanning was huge and everyone looked orange and insane.
Hmm.
But when you like acclimatize people and give them enough propaganda to say that tanning is cool and you don't look orange, it's fine. It's fine. You look pretty. Then people will buy anything, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, they're saying beauty industry hard targets young women look their best.
Mhm.
A big thing now is skincare.
Yep.
I mean, it's been big for a while and stuff, but I think especially now for super young kids, like they're getting younger and
Kids that
younger to do
don't have
skincare
any
stuff.
skin problems, skin
No,
that is like the best it will ever be in their life. They're like, I need a product.
yeah, because it's not. Yeah, it's interesting. My daughter is kind of into it too. Is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like she wants skincare stuff, but it's also it's the mindful and demure. It's taking care of. It's the self. Treat yourself.
Yep.
Take care of yourself. You know, it's yeah, like you feel good. It's your own personal spa day sort of thing. Like I
Yeah.
think she does it for a lot of that, but that's how it also gets advertised and sold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plus, plus they do. They make you aware of things that weren't even a problem, like the little skin shaver, for peach fuzz.
Mm,
It's
yeah,
like
honestly, yeah. It's don't do it.
that was
Like, it's fine.
never a problem. Like that
Yeah,
was never an insecurity that I had when I was a kid. But I know like little kids that are like, or younger girls that are they even created because you can't even see it most of the time. It's like tiny little hairs that are naturally on your face. They created this powder that you can spray on yourself so you can see the hairs so that you can shave them off. Like what?
nice. Yeah, let's highlight a problem that's not a problem, and then so
And
we
then
can take care
sell
of
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
freaking
I mean
annoying.
that's like seen on TV all the time.
Yeah,
And then yeah,
that go.
the chapstick example makes
Yep.
your lips drier. Need more chapstick. I mean, that gets into like the really nefarious stuff or the planned obsolescence for technology.
What's this?
Uh, it's um, it's like baked into stuff to I think an example is like Apple and their batteries. It was planned that after a certain time they're going to, save your battery life by reducing power to stuff, and they're over time they'll make it obsolete just by way of, yeah, but it's intentional.
They'll make what obsolete?
Anything like the software, the hardware, your battery,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
so that
yeah.
you have to end up buying new stuff. It's just planned that making it obsolete, like it's no longer usable or functional for the level that people want anyway. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I think part of that is just like technological advancement. It's like, yeah, the iPhone 1 just physically couldn't do the things that the new iPhones can do. But then, yeah, there was that case, or that, I don't know if it was a lawsuit or something. People were saying my phone is is being drained, like the battery is dying a lot faster after this specific update.
mm-hmm.
Right. And it was like they did this on purpose so that I would buy a
Yeah,
new phone right after
mm-hmm.
the new ones came out.
Yeah.
That is messed up.
Fast fashion. That's what that is.
Huh?
It's plain
Yeah.
obsolescence. Yeah,
Yeah.
that word. Because
The things
it's
that are in style at Forever 21 are only in style for like a season. And then they're not cool anymore. Or they fall apart because
it's
they're
falling
made
apart
crappy.
usually. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
just fast fashion. It's churn out this stuff for a time, and yeah, yeah.
That that's like, yeah, all ethics of design. It's not just graphic design, it's not just fashion, it's
But
industries,
so
entire
some of this,
industries.
yeah, but it's like how much of that gets okay. So design, we're talking about design by like individuals and stuff, right? Now there's getting into design by business,
Hmm.
especially because it's like I've seen high level businesses and stuff, and it's like a lot of times they don't seem to really know what they're talking about or doing, and it's just kind of like, well, this person's doing that thing that they think needs to happen, this other one's doing this other thing. For the most part, well, what metrics matter? It's like we need growth, we need um, always improving the bottom line, sort of thing,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like all these things that go into well, we're no longer like intentionally designing a good product or the right experience or things like that. Now becomes this, yeah. So
We're
for the
designing the cheapest product
mm-hmm.
with the perhaps worst um cheapest materials in the easiest way possible.
Yeah,
And that becomes a shitty experience.
and at what
Yeah.
point? So is that intentional by like a specific group of people intentionally put that together to do a thing, or is that like a just by way of the incentives involved in the business that's what arises?
Yeah, I think people justify doing stuff like that, like companies like Shein, like you're talking about, they justify using the cheapest labor possible because it's just some guy who decided, hey, guess what, boss? I found a really good solution. We can pay these people only this much to get the same product. And they don't realize what they're doing is as bad because they think, well, it's for my job. I'm providing for my family. And all they care about is their bottom line themselves, or in like the case of a company, the entire company's bottom line, and they don't really care how they get there because they've lost sight of their mission and their morals. And I think that happens when a company is old enough where the people who started it are no longer there, or companies where the people who started it had bad morals to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think that the question is interesting. Like, would you work for a company like Sheen? I
It's
don't know.
easy to justify doing it if you're like, well, I have a family and I need to provide for them. So yeah, I would if that was the only option. I think that's how a lot of people justify whatever they're doing.
Well,
But
part of this is I'm curious. Do they even have any designers in like the U.S. or
I don't know.
U.S. similar type countries? Because Sheen's from where? I don't even know
China,
what
I
country.
think.
Is it just,
Would you work for like Forever 21?
yeah, China. Well, like, yeah. So, I mean, because some of this is like different values. Sheen over there might be quite different than it is here, just because if Sheen China
Yeah.
doesn't need all the resources that maybe we do, just because of the volume that we're gonna order, or the shipping, and I don't know, because of that changes things. It's like there's gonna be. I'm trying to be like nuanced in this with designer at a place like Shein and stuff, and try to look for like ways that it could be ethical. But I mean, when it comes down to it, from our perspective, fast fashion, no, probably not. Like it's, um,
Yeah, I'd try to avoid it probably. Even like the last job I had, I was like, man, I don't know if I like what they're selling. But I was learning and I was like, you don't always know the company when you start working there. You don't know their morals. You don't know where they source things or whatever. It is
mhm,
good to like do your research if that's something you care about. I know a lot of people just don't care though. They're like, I don't want to know. What I don't know can't hurt me. Like, right?
mhm.
I don't know. There is a lot of nuance to it though, for sure. Because again, like if it's a chain or something, maybe one restaurant the manager is super corrupt and he only hires white people or something, but you work at a different chain and the manager didn't even they don't talk to each other, they don't know anything. And everyone's like, "Oh, you shouldn't work there." And it gets this bad name because of this one manager. There's always like there's always nuance to it. What else were we going to talk about?
There was a whole thing about, well, I forgot. We, oh, because we were talking about you brought up typography.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, like in language and stuff like that. Yeah.
oh, well, yeah, I think it was getting into like the different types of, I don't know, just again different ways. I don't know. We don't even need to go back to it. Just different types of like, yeah, it's design like uh, as a language sort of thing.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah, because I was kind of making the argument that design is pretty much everywhere in everything, especially in society. And you could argue, well, nature isn't by human design, which is true. Sometimes it is. Sometimes people curate nature and gardens and
well,
even
that's
genetically modify nature.
agricultural revolution, right? That's what that
Uh-huh.
was. Yeah.
And nature does have a design to it, and it's designed um in a way where it's like the best. It's like a tinkerer. Nature is like a tinkerer. They're like it's like slowly changing little things about a certain species until it's like the most optimal for survival, right? So it is kind of by design. It is definitely by design, actually. Humans design in a different way.
So talking about, sorry, because I'm thinking about that now, where it's the whole nature's tinkering as it goes sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
Where I'm wondering if it's not like as intentional, but it's more reactionary
Yes.
sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is. I think almost, well, yeah, almost nothing in nature is purely aesthetic. There's always like a reason for it. Even in like say peacocks where you're like how could that tail help their survival in any way? Doesn't it just make them a bigger target? And the answer is yes, it does. But the female sees that and says this male is really strong because he survived despite having a giant long tail running from predators, and he like looks beautiful and he is getting enough nutrients and whatever to like sustain such a beautiful tail. So that even has a purpose of like sexual selection versus natural selection.
Hmm.
And people do like look at, and this gets into a whole maybe like spiritual debate that we don't need to like get into, but people look at nature and be like, how could this not be designed by a human? And it's like, I don't, or like a god or whatever. And it's like, well, maybe it is just beautiful because of the function, because The form followed the function.
Form followed the function. Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's like something about what you're saying that I'm like, well, I want to like the oh, it was like the optimal state. So like nature, we're getting like optimal states and stuff. Or like so much of this, I guess I see it as more. It's like just what it is. It's not that there's an optimal anything. It's just this is just what it is, by way of what came before. If that makes sense. So
Mm.
then, when we think about like oh well, this was designed for us and stuff. Like well, I mean, if it wasn't this, it wouldn't be this. It'd be something different, or it'd be
Yeah.
nothing. So it's like I mean, it's easy to say. This is like a. Do you know the survivor bias?
No.
Uh, it is survivorship bias occurs when research. That's not going to help. Logical error of concentrating on entities that pass the selection process while overlooking those that did not. So basically, it's like
Oh.
people who, uh, oh, I grew up and I didn't wear seatbelts, and look at me, I'm fine. It's like, well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool for you. You would not be here to say that if you died in a car crash because you weren't wearing a seatbelt, though. So for all those kids who didn't make it to your age, you're only able to say that because you're the survivor. So like us, we're the survivors right now. Like we are.
Yeah.
So it
The
is what
dead
it
kids
is
can't
because of what
speak
came
up and be like,
before.
well, I didn't wear a seatbelt and I wasn't fine because they're dead.
Yeah, but and so
Yeah.
now like we get to we are all just survivors. So it's like no, it just is the way that it is. It's not like this is some optimal anything. It's just it is what it is. So then when we get into oh this is
Yeah.
designed this way, it's like well, I mean that's interesting to say, but how can you even get to there because this is just what it is. Like we can see how there's plenty of things that aren't optimal. Like we can point to plenty of that stuff. Like things are really messy.
Yeah.
And
Just
so
because everything that is related to that thing is designed that way doesn't mean it's the best way to design it.
yeah, or that there's any intention at all.
Yeah.
But when we
Yeah.
get to like the big question of nature of reality, that's where it's like it just is what it is. I mean,
Sure. I
uh,
think like in human survival or animal extinction, maybe people could say, well, these animals obviously are survival of the fittest. They evolved better, they had a better design. But like you said, that's not always the case. Maybe there was a predator that was a better predator, but it just got unlucky and an asteroid hit it and then the whole species died,
mhm.
even though it had a better, I don't know, survival method and
or
design or
or
whatever.
one animal specifically targeted a different type of animal for I don't know something that they liked about that.
Humans did
Yeah,
that.
well, I'm sure that there's other animals that have done that too, but we definitely have done that. Yes,
Yeah.
multiple times over.
Well, I'm pretty sure pandas would be extinct if humans didn't. Um, they'd be naturally extinct. They wouldn't be extinct by humans. They'd be like naturally extinct if humans didn't interfere with them because they only eat one thing. They barely ever reproduce, and they only live in like a very specific climate.
But they still survived.
Yeah,
I have to look into that
because
the
humans,
natural what'd you call that?
natural selection.
No, I thought you said something else. It was what is it when extinction, natural extinction.
Mm. Yeah. For example, there was a deer species in Ireland that the sexual selection was like the bigger antlers, the better. So the females would only mate with the males that had the biggest antlers. And so that gene got proliferated and the antlers got bigger and bigger and bigger. But eventually, all of their minerals were going to their antlers instead of their bones and their body. And they all started dying really early. And then the entire species went extinct because of the extreme selection towards having bigger antlers. So there's like a a balance between natural selection and sexual selection that you have to like.
Those what animal was it?
This was the Irish red deer, I
Those
believe.
thirsty Irish red deer wanting those huge antlers.
Isn't that
They
interesting?
made themselves go extinct.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Man, it's
Humans didn't cause every extinction. We almost made buffalo go extinct though, just for fun.
oh yeah,
We did make dodos go extinct
yes,
for fun, for
for
sport.
fun, for fun.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is.
Natural nature design is super interesting to me as a designer. Have you heard of the Fibonacci sequence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the golden
Yeah.
ratio.
Yeah, pine cones and leaves and stuff, they grow in that sequence and it's like a really random sequence. But they kind of think that the reason it is pretty common to grow in that exact pattern is like do and it creates the spiral is because it's the most optimized for sunlight because it's random, but it's not too precise that like if it's just like too precise, sometimes if you don't get sunlight in a very specific way, you won't get it at all. So this one it's like optimized to get sunlight because it is random and then it actually does the randomness creates a pattern.
Hmm.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah. But so randomness, but they're all the same. So
Mm,
what's the random part
there-
of it?
um it's not a pattern that humans would ever like
Oh,
calculate
okay. In
because
that sense, it's random. It's like a
yeah, it's not like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. It's like 3, 7. Well, I can't remember the numbers, but it's a really like you're like that seems like a
1.618.
random. Yeah, yeah, but it's by design, and um, not every plant is always perfectly on that sequence either. But that also creates other advantages, like because if everything was genetically the same, they could go to extinct very quickly, right? Like
Okay.
bananas.
So I had this wrong. So the golden ratio is derived from the Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah.
And then the Fibonacci sequence is a series of numbers where each number is the sum of the two preceding numbers.
Yeah. We
So
should get into this in another podcast. I have a video that we can watch.
okay, yeah, no, let's do that. Because
Okay.
that would be interesting. I want to dive into that because there's a few things that anyway questions I got with that. This question though of paying contractors in a different country, so like India, and paying them the same as the U.S. workers. I don't know. Do
Oh,
you have
I
any?
just said, yeah, they the reason they'd probably go to another country is because it's cheaper. 9 times out of
Oh,
10, right?
yeah, but I mean the question. Oh, are they paying those workers the same amount? No, they're definitely not. That's yeah, no, that's for sure.
Especially software devs. There's no way they'd be paying them the same amount.
Yeah, I mean, because it's all very much it's market rate. That's you know
Yeah,
it's market rate.
if you could pay, engineers the same, you would obviously rather pay someone in your country on your time zone, right? In your currency. It'd be a lot simpler, but yeah, the only reason they'd go through the trouble of hiring devs in a different country is because it's cheaper. I don't know if it's unethical or anything. American workers might be like, "Well, that's a bummer," you
Well,
know.
so I'm curious,
But
what would be unethical? Um, is it about the lower pay, or is it going to them in the first place, going offshore?
yeah, I don't that's a good question.
Because like going offshore, I mean, I assume that's not what it's about. I assume the question's more like the actual pay. But
He's probably just wondering why do companies even do that? And it's like, yeah, it's to save money.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, because yeah, same work for different pay. It's not different pay when you factor in like the equivalency. So like cost of living, for example, and maybe that's probably not the right way to put that, but well, I don't even know. So maybe I shouldn't even keep talking about this, but I'll just put this out there, like market rate, right? So if software developers market rate is much lower in India than it is in the US, well, that could easily be because if you paid US wages to those software devs, uh, yeah, I don't even know what would happen. Like that would be interesting. What would start happening to like would anyway? But there's still like quality things. You're not necessarily paying
Yeah,
for the same work. It's not the same work because the quality is much lower.
I would
Not
agree.
always, right? Obviously, but
Yeah.
oftentimes that's what ends up being. And then, but the so one, it's not quite the same work, and then the other part is even if it kind of was,
The same quality of work.
I don't know. Yeah, no, it's interesting ethical standpoint because it's I have worked with developers that were out of the country, like, and if they were like they were paid U.S. wages, and so they were like super happy about it and stuff, like because they would make so much less if they got paid their market rate and stuff.
Hmm.
And I always thought that like that was the right thing. You know, it's like well they're getting for the resources hours they're getting paid the same whether they're U.S. based or not and the quality output's the same. So just give them the same. It's good on them that they live in a really low cost living area, sort of thing. Like that's super nice for them.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't change. But then it's like yeah. If you did make it like a well, we're gonna adjust it based on the market and stuff. I know some companies do, but between like U.S. and India, if you were to adjust it based on the market, I don't know. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. I think most of the time they pay them less because they can, because they can live on less in different countries,
Yeah, exactly. Like
right?
it's yeah. If they were to make U.S. wages, well, then they would be like
But
the
yeah, if we
equivalency
did,
of what they would be making compared to their neighbors would be way crazier, I
crazy.
assume. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of people getting an American job, getting the American rate for the job, and then secretly or not so secretly going and living in like Mexico because the cost of living is super
mm,
low, but they still have that same income. So the bang for their buck is like way higher. And that's just smart. That's a smart
yeah,
thing to do. I don't think it's unethical.
hmm
I think purposely paying people less in a country where they need less to have the same amount, like quality of life, maybe is questionable. But I don't
well,
know if it's unethical or not. I don't know.
part of this too is I mean I'm going to bring it back to the quality of work sort of thing because if you do have a developer who is really good, it almost doesn't really matter where they live. A company will pick them up. I
Yeah.
mean, there's some legal hurdles on some of those, but outside of that, yeah, like if they're
Yeah.
worth it, people will pay them, and so maybe don't go and work for that agency that's gonna, you know. But that's where it's like, yeah, quality work. I
Pay
mean,
you
a lot of
less.
times people are contracting out with individuals or contracting with companies, agencies, like
True.
staffing agencies and stuff. And then those staffing agencies will kind of find whatever talent. And sometimes they are really good about the quality of the talent, and sometimes they're less. So,
Mm. That's really interesting, Rev. He's saying that like at his job, the overseas devs in India are doing just as good of work,
yeah, I mean, I mean,
but they're probably being paid less.
my thought as a business person would be seeing that and being like, all right, well, why would I have more expensive and like US based? Just like, I don't even need that
Hmm.
6 month contract too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in my experience, I'll say that I've worked with overseas devs and they probably weren't as good as the in-house devs, but part of it was like language barrier and just like time. Like they had to work it like weird times, and that kind of sucked. And it was just like really asynchronous, so it was harder to like work with them. So you have to take that into account if you're the person like looking for devs, you have to like take all that into account. I'd say most of the time you don't always get what you pay for. Like sometimes there are really good devs overseas, but sometimes not as much. I don't know.
Yeah. So much of it's going to come to the agency and who they're finding, like how their quality of or standards of quality.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, interesting.
But yeah, having yeah, especially India because it's like, is it 12 hours for the East Coast or 12 hours for Mountain Time? Anyway, I think it might be anyway. Yeah, either way, it's a big time's a big thing.
I remember being like a little bit salty that I had to start work at 7 instead of 9 because our devs are in a completely different time zone, and I was like, they chose to work for an American company. They should be like
Yeah,
adjusting to our time.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
fun.
know. I'm just not a morning person.
No, I get that. No, and it's not fun. That's
11 hours. I think sometimes you can pay the same wage for like a really good um dev in that will work with you in person, like in your country or whatever, in your time zone, especially in person. I think working in person makes a difference after doing it. But you could probably pay one dev the same you could for like three devs or four in a different country, but they might do better work.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
In my
it's
case, that's what's happened. We have a dev that does, four times the amount of work as like one dev that I worked with at my previous company that was overseas.
yeah,
And it's just
it's
easier to work with because we're on the same time zone.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be all over. But I mean, the quality. I mean, that's yeah. I don't know if somebody is doing quality work, just pay them. That's a lot more difficult
Yeah.
though if they're part of an agency.
Yeah. I would actually hate to own a business and have to deal with all this stuff all the time. There's so much moral dilemma in business.
What business would you own?
I would not want to. So I wouldn't have to make these choices and do all this stuff. But I don't know. If I did have to own a business, I wouldn't want a big one with a ton of employees, probably. Because I think the thing I don't like the most is all of that clerical work and hiring and HR and all that. I would hate that. I also hate freelancing though. So I don't know. I like working for a company. I don't like being the boss.
Hmm. No, I get that. It makes sense. But I mean, it's also owning a business very different too, though. With like you're no
Yeah.
longer even. There's so many other things that are going on at that point.
Yeah. Have you heard the quote, absolute power
Corrupts
is
absolutely.
absolute corrupts absolutely?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's true?
I don't know. I mean, it's uh, it doesn't have to. Um, and I'd say because like all right, first Marcus Aurelius is the first one that comes to mind as
Yeah.
like supposedly was a really good leader and stuff, but um,
He's the one who said that quote, isn't he?
was he? I don't know.
I think so, yeah. And when he became emperor, was appointed emperor, he gave a co-emperorship to his brother because he didn't want to have absolute power or something. Yeah, fact check me on that.
I'm looking it up. Yeah. So anyway, he written in 1887. So no, not Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, never mind.
The yeah. I don't know that there's very many others and stuff, but it's like it's perspective though, right? So who was he good for and who wasn't he good for? Was there? I mean, Is somebody really good for everybody?
No.
Because I just imagine that there's got to be, it's
The, with any system, because of the nature of humanity and everyone being super different and having different needs, if you tried to like govern people in the exact same way in every situation, it would never work out for everybody. I think that's like part of the reason why we have state governments and a national government, right? That was the thinking behind it, anyway.
yeah.
Like different states have different needs.
Hmm. I mean, some of that was the federal government came after. The states is what started. It was the 13 original
Yeah,
colonies, and they were
yeah, you're
colonies
right.
first, and then they formed into a to form a more perfect union.
You,
I think so, right?
the United States.
So Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor.
Yes.
Without like, and I actually maybe I should know this better, but Roman Empire. I mean, I just imagine that they stomped over plenty of people and cultures or whatever else and stuff. So even him, where it's like lauded as a great leader and person, philosopher, like all that stuff, is like a really good leader. Absolute power corrupts absolute. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. What is absolute corruption? I suppose because that
Yeah,
I
I don't
mean,
know.
Mark Twain, I think, said all hasty generalizations are false, including this one. Or he didn't say hasty. Sorry, hasty generalization is the logical fallacy. He said all generalizations are false, including this one. Uh, another another is what the only Sith deal in absolutes.
Only the Sith.
Yeah, deal in absolutes.
Is this
Like it's an all or
Star
nothing Star
Wars?
Wars, yeah. But it's like an
Yeah.
all or nothing. Like it's
Yeah.
um, yeah. So
Oh,
no, I mean
yeah.
it's
The
yeah,
only universal
generalizations.
truth is there is no universal truths.
Hmm.
Including this one. Yeah, like even that would be wrong. But
Hmm.
dang, I feel like my brain is fried now.
How long have we been going for? My
Like an hour and a half.
my timer stopped at like 104, so I don't even know.
Oh, yeah. Um, you're doing stats homework? Jeez.
Yeah, it's not fun.
We wanted to talk about so Rev, have you ever heard like your math teacher or anybody say, math isn't everything? I swear I've had teachers say that. Um, yes, of course, right? Yes, people say that. Math isn't everything. I argue that design isn't everything. And thank you, Macon. I think Trent and I were talking about this. Math is actually it can be applied to everything, but is it inherently in everything? No.
Yeah, what is so? I get the way that you're phrasing that now. I want to make sure I understand. Math isn't everything. I assume that that's meaning like everything's made up of math, sort of thing, or like
That's how I took it as a kid. But maybe that's not how they meant it. Maybe they just meant you can use math to figure anything out.
haven't done any actual math. Wait, it was all math before. I thought.
What do you mean?
Oh, maybe that. Let's see. I might be mixing
Oh,
up. Who's
that was
the?
Macon. Macon was
Oh
doing
yeah,
math.
okay. Never mind. So yeah,
He's
what's
Ref is a software developer.
oh
You probably will do math at some point.
take lots of
Yeah,
math.
yeah. And it's because math is a type of database design, maybe? Or it's like it's a interface that we can use to interact with the world.
It's a language. I would say
It's
it's
a
symbols.
language.
It's a language of symbols with an
Yeah.
um like We don't have to do base 10. Base 10 is just what we've done, probably because, it's easy to count for us
Hmm.
humans and stuff. But we didn't have to have base 10. We can do other stuff. And I think that there's actually other things that don't use base 10. Actually, there's probably cultures that don't. I don't know. But like base 10, so it's like the math is the axiom. It's just like a set of principles that set up that guide the language, right? It's like, hey, so this is how this is structured. This is how we're going to use it. So within this structure, now we can start building out and keep adding to it. And then
Hmm.
what works within this structure and things. But, oh yeah, good point. Binary, base 2. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would argue that math is a language that we use to describe things in the world. It's not inherently in everything in the world.
Oh yeah, because it's like a layer of
Humans
abstraction.
apply it. Yeah, it is. It's a layer of abstraction. Humans apply it to something in order to calculate what it actually is in ways that we can understand it, right?
It's like it's on base 16. Oh yeah, that's right. Interesting. The math is a series of symbols that's been applied to our observations.
Hmm.
And so,
Just like words are a way of trying to describe what's in our heads and what we're experiencing. Yeah.
yeah, and so there's like this a set of rules that's applied to it, like a base set of rules, kind of sort of. And I'm probably like sounding like I'm totally making stuff up with this, but I think there's truth to what I'm saying. The So like the math, because the math doesn't have to, right, so it's like base 2, base 16. We could do different things, and that would change the math that we're actually doing with all this stuff, but those are still meant to just track the observations that we're making of things as we go, right? But then with the observations, now the observations we're matching up to the numbers and that language and that series or the symbolism. So now that we've got that, and we can keep building off of it, and then yeah, when we're doing the observation stuff, so we're saying like, all right, so this language, it's like I don't know, maybe like decoding, encoded messages and stuff. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
we got this rules for how this is done. So now you can go out and make all your own encoded messages, whatever message you want, sort of thing. But that encoded message is still going to have to work within this framework that we've established. And if it doesn't, it won't work, right? It'll be all messy and stuff. So that's the same
Can
thing
you
with the
give an
math.
example? Like,
Yeah, so general relativity, or just like Einstein's work, because that's like a common one that comes up. So before that, we had the Newtonian physics, which was the apple falling from the tree, and it was the I feel like I'm going to say a bunch of stuff, and then somebody's going to come and be like, "You sound ignorant." But the angular momentum.
that
So
always
we
happens on the internet. It's okay.
we had all these things where it's like, so yeah, noon, like the things that he started establishing, and we had this whole thing for how things operate. So it's a very specific, like you have the sun, and then things go around the sun, and then it's a circular path, and all this, or it's elliptical paths or whatever. But it's like this path, and all this stuff happens. So Einstein comes along, and he's working with the math, and I don't remember what comes first, but there's at some point where, because like philosophy and science like just coexist between all this stuff, because the way you have to like think about the concepts of things to then work through the math to see if it works out. So Einstein is working through this thing, and then it's like, oh hey, so there's this. I should refresh myself on all this to talk about it better, but uh, yeah, he has all this math though. Or sorry, he went to somebody. He has this idea. He goes to somebody to do this math, or like there's this person that's done all this math and everything. And so this math, it's like, all right, well, what can we do with it? And so he's just like working with this thing until it starts to kind of come out that it's like, oh, so this seems to be how this works. So through this encoding, or like messing with this coding message, like the encryption, we're messing within this the framework of this encryption stuff, and I'm uncovering a message that we could end up having, like a different way that we could encode the message within the same framework, but nobody's encoded the message that way before, right? And so it's sort of like that. So then with like relativity and then general relativity, we've he brings in all these other things about like, well, the math works out to where we have these gravity wells. So now you introduce the gravity wells and how all that works with space time. Space time is now one. It's not two separate things. Before it was thought of as
Mm-hmm.
two separate with Newtonian physics, and then
Mm-hmm. There was
yeah,
space and time, now it's space
now
time.
it's one thing. It's like a fabric together, and then that fabric can be like sort of like stretched or pulled or weighted or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and so with all that, but it's all working within this framework of the math, and so
Yeah.
but it's all kind of like working through this language to discover. Anyway, sorry, I don't know if this is even making any sense anymore, but it's like working within this. We have this framework. It's setting up these observations. So now that we've set up patterns for these observations, we should be able to predict other things because now we've set up and we built out enough. So the sequence we built out a sequence enough, match that to our observations, and when we keep checking different things, the sequence that we built out still matches with our observations. So now we can predict what will happen in a future state because
Mm-hmm.
all this is just tracking changes over time. That's all that we're really doing. That's what, a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff that we're tracking. It's just things over time. We'll see how this, anyway. So we put
And we
this,
use math to track it,
we,
right?
we
Is that what
use
you're saying?
math to help us speak about it
Yeah.
because otherwise we don't have ways to speak about it. Like that's the language in which we speak about these things just because that's
Yeah. I
like,
think of like the universe is like if we had to really simplify it, the universe is like let's personify it. Say the universe is a person and they are so smart and they have all these interesting ideas and cool things, but they cannot speak. And so we try to we try to like learn about it by applying language to it. And there's different languages that it could speak in. I don't know if this is a good example. Maybe it's a book. And if you give someone a book, but you can't read the you can't read it, you can't read the language it's in, you'd have to like translate it. And the like what's really in the book is actually just an idea. And unless you can read someone's mind, you're never going to like know what's in their head. And so you have to write something down and then translate it. And even that, it gets changed when you translate it. And that's like math being updated based on what we learn. And we go back and we retranslate it, and you're like, actually, the idea isn't quite that. And then you have to use a new word, which is just an abstraction of a thought. I don't know what I'm trying to say, actually, referee. I think what I'm trying to say is the universe is like it exists and it's this thing that we're trying to figure out, but it's in a language that we can't understand. And so we try to write it down and understand it with a language, but sometimes we translate it wrong, or sometimes the language doesn't quite account for everything that it is.
and you're still
And
talking
so
specifically about math as this.
any language really.
Well, because I
But
agree with
yeah.
language. Math, I think it's more about the observation side of like
Yeah.
we observe things, and with the patterns that we observe, we're able to put symbolism to that, which is the math.
Yeah.
So it's
But you
like,
have to yeah, you just have to keep in mind that those numbers aren't the actual thing. It's just an
yeah,
abstraction.
exactly, right. But that's where
Yeah.
it's like interesting because we maybe this is like going really down rabbit holes and stuff, but getting down to what's the smallest thing that we can see. And I say that because so we know about things that we
That
can't
we
really
can't
observe
see.
because of
Yeah.
math. Like it should be there or it should be this way, and so it's like
Mhm.
because of the like we're able to observe this much so far, so then we should be able to project and see the other stuff. Yeah, I think we've been able to view an atom, right? I think that is the smallest thing we've viewed. But yeah, it's but then there's so many smaller things that we claim to know
Yeah.
about and stuff, and so all that is. Uh, but we don't know about those things. Like we talk about it, like in the electron. Do you, like,
Yeah.
I've been learning about more about electrons and stuff, which is like, they always described it as, it's that thing that orbits a thing, right? But
In an
it's
atom.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or
but it's
something.
not even a nucleus. The
Uh-huh.
electrons orbit the nucleus and stuff. But it's not a thing that orbits. It's a wave. It's like a wave function. And so when we say wave function, it's like, well, what's the wave function? It's a wave, but is it a wave? Because this is all just analogies and metaphors that we're using in order to
Yeah.
describe it, with math being the thing that kind of tells us that it's there. That's not fully true anymore. I mean, but it kind of is, because we're still like, well, we can't really observe it. So we're observing things around it, and then we're using math to kind of help us understand it a little bit better. But we're not really understanding it. We're just putting this like observational language to it, sort of thing.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah, like observing gravity and like knowing that it exists is not seeing it at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
Like just because we can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
well, like time dilation. Like have
Hmm.
you like that whole thing? Because that,
That's a
difference in
mind
gravities
trip.
and stuff, and like yeah, how it's like we could literally age at different times just based on the gravity that we're in. And it's
Hmm.
like anyway, yeah.
Yeah, the
It's crazy.
gravity being like how fast we're going in space time. Are those, I feel like they're related, but people don't know how yet, right? Gravity and space time. Or do they
Well,
know?
so yeah, like
What you're
the
talking about is like when you go like the faster you get to the speed of light, the slower you would, or yeah, the slower you would experience time compared to someone who's not going fast to the speed of light, and therefore you would age slower.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, like in Interstellar, than someone who is not going that fast.
Yeah, so those uh, at a in a deeper gravity well, and that's this is where like I'm trying to be careful, because I don't even know if it's straight up just gravity, but it's the gravity well. So the deeper the gravity, the slow. Oh, hold on. So if you approach a black hole, maybe this is even different too. If you approach a black hole, which is really dense gravity, right? So that light can't escape. You will also live, like you'll be stretched out till the end of time,
Yeah.
or till the end of the black hole, because it's not end of time. But then if you're traveling at the speed of light, is that the same thing as like not aging and stuff? And so maybe I'm not even right with the gravity thing. But anyway, yeah, it is crazy though, because yes, you can be at two different uh, this. But again, we're like, actually we have observed that people that have been up in space, we have been able to apparently check the difference in the time and stuff.
Yeah.
And so
I
it's
think they
like,
did
yeah.
that. They like sent a clock out. And they were set to the exact same time, and one was just like traveling around the world really fast, and one was staying still or something, and it had like a fraction of a second difference or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
Because time's not even the same. Time's it's different.
Space time, speed. What even is speed? Like, what even is all this stuff?
We get
That'd be
into a lot
cool.
of crazy discussions though. A powerful enough telescope far enough away they could look back and see how Earth was created.
Because the light would reach the telescope after, so we could observe how Earth was created. Yeah, light is a trip. Light and gravity are both like, what?
Yeah, because that's where I'm like, I need to think about this again, because it's like there's so many things to keep like organized too when you're thinking about this stuff. Because it's like, yeah, how light behaves versus how like the space time versus that.
Hmm.
Because yeah, uh, yeah,
Right now,
anyway.
scientists are seeing stars. The light is traveling from that time or whatever to us, and it takes forever because it's so far away, right? And so what we're seeing, the stars we're seeing are in the past. So, I listened to this podcast recently where they're seeing stars that they believe could be the center of the universe or the beginning of the creation of like the Big Bang or the universe creation. Um, and it's like happening way faster than they thought mathematically possible or something. So they're having to like rethink all their math to like adjust for this new
Yeah.
information that they're getting.
So that's where like we'll always have to keep doing that because again, math is a symbol. Math's like a metaphor for the thing. And so we're always, as we get deeper into, as we learn more about it, we're gonna have to keep updating what we know. Like we still don't know
Hmm.
anything because we don't know the things. We know a way to talk about the things.
Yeah.
And so, and then even still, it's like, yeah, because so many times like we will chalk up like two things are the same because the number is the same for it. But then as we get better and better about being able to get more precise, it turns out that they're not the same. I'm trying to think of
Like what?
uh, like two different particles. So like the Large Hadron Collider for in Switzerland. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's a big ring that they built out like miles long.
Mm, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Seems cool though. You're
It
saying like
is.
you'll get observations um from data that indicates that they might be the same thing.
So it's this thing.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Oh, it's like if we were looking at something in black and white and it's the same value and we're like, "Oh yeah, those are both probably red." And then you turn off black and white mode and you're like, "Oh,
Mm.
actually it's just blue of the
Mm-hmm.
exact same value." And
Yes.
the hard part about humans is like, yeah, we can only see in black and white sometimes. And the math is telling us that um this is red and this is blue. They're not actually the same, but we can only see. And so we think, but then maybe we get like a special thing that allows us to see in color, and then we have to adjust our findings and be like, oh, actually, these aren't the same color.
Mm-hmm. Actually, yeah, I heard a great analogy, and I'm blanking on who said it, but it was like famous physicist, somebody. But they were saying that it's like watching a the gods play a chess match. And so at the beginning of this chess match, we're gonna see that like, oh, so it's set up like so, it has all this stuff, and okay, so we can observe what's going on, what's happening, right? And then they move the first piece, and it turns out like, hey, this piece only moves on white spaces. It can only move on white spaces. And it's like,
Hmm.
all right, and then you keep going a little bit further, and it turns out, well, it's not only white spaces that it can move on; it can also be on the other ones. As we got more information, it turns out, oh, it was just moving in a diagonal pattern, and because of the way that the board's set up with the checkered pattern, it's
Hmm.
moving diagonally. That will keep it on the same color, right? And so, but it's not that it has to be on the same one. It's that so, and then we have to go back and update our rules. And so this whole
Yeah.
thing is that's the game that we're constantly playing is we're constantly
Mm.
watching this chess match, and then once we observe more and can put more to it and create a bigger pattern or a better pattern or get more detailed about the pattern, then we're able to update that.
Yeah. We're trying to figure out the rules, the
Yeah.
design, and why. It's like, yeah, we know that that one's only moving on white, but is it only moving on white because it can only move on white, or is it only moving on white because it was set on white and it only goes diagonally? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah. But because of that, we will our heads are in this box that we like this reality that we're in. We're inside of it. So how can we even know what's outside of it, sort of thing? So we're always
Yeah.
playing that catch up game. Like that's where we're at.
Yeah, it is like we can only see in black and white, but we know that the world is in color
Or at least we know
because
that there's more to it.
yeah,
There's gonna
yeah,
be more
yeah.
to it. We just don't know exactly what that is yet. So,
We don't even know what color is.
mm-hmm.
Like in
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
scenario, like
yeah,
we know that there's something different, but you don't really know what it is.
yeah. Even yeah, just like the oceans, 95% unexplored. It's like even here, like we know so little. We
We
know
really
so little.
do.
There's so many things that can go on, but that's yeah.
The ocean's cool though.
Mm-hmm.
It is wild that we're like exploring space and people are like, what about our own planet, you guys? What about the oceans? Because I don't know. I don't know which is. I think space is for some reason more interesting in some ways because it gives us perspective to like how small we are.
Hmm.
And then, but the ocean is more interesting, obviously, because we know there's life there already, and there's so many species and everything.
I'm curious. So like I'm thinking about law of diminishing returns, or maybe that's not the right one, but so for that 95% unexplored, what would it take in order to explore it? Like how much effort would that be? What does that
Do we
look
even
like?
know it's 95%?
I think it's because of what they actually have mapped out. Like they have maps of the ocean floor type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they've only got 5% mapped out from what they know exists on the globe,
Oh, I see.
I think that's I don't know if that's what that refers to
Yeah,
or
there's
not,
got
but
to be some reason for it, but it could be more than that, for all we know.
hmm, yeah, ballparked it.
They probably did. Yeah,
Just standing on the
'cause
ship, just like yes, it's probably overlooking the ocean.
probably seen 5% by now. Yeah. Oh man.
I want that job.
Yeah, that'd be a fun job. What do
Winning
you
an
think?
award
Is
for
there
that.
anything else we should talk about today?
Um,
Today?
man, I feel like there's so many things that like we could have gotten into and we just didn't even dream job.
I know we're all over the place.
I know. There's
We'll get better though.
yeah,
We just need to write down all the things that we could have gone more into and then come back to them.
deep topics.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where it goes back to at the beginning of this talking about like why we even want to do like with the psychology and philosophy and all that. Like it's just open up because it's so interesting. Like all these different things that get into it, and it's easy to relate to design or using design as like a jumping off point for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love it. Love it.
Yeah. And again, yeah, that's kind of the reason we started this is because Trent and I, when we worked together, we were always going off about random shit. And we were like, man, I wish we could keep talking about this, but the meeting's over and we probably should go back to work.
Yes.
So here we are, creating a place where we can just talk about stuff with people who hopefully care.
Yeah, no, it's been good. Like
Yeah,
good contribution.
it's been super fun.
Yeah. Nice. All right, cool. Right on.
Yeah, we're almost at 2 hours, so I think we can call it there.
All right, let's do it.
Yes, and if anyone wants to join our Discord, I think everyone who's watching is probably already in it. But if we get a random watcher, here's an invite. Good for 7 days.
Right on.
I think you're not the only one who gets lost, Ref. I think sometimes we start talking about something and then we're like, actually, what am I saying? That doesn't make sense. It's not your fault. I
Try to get
think
better about
as
that.
we, yeah, I think as we like talk more and if we like go over our notes a little bit and refine our thoughts, it'll be a little easier to follow, hopefully. But
Hopefully,
we
we'll
know
work
that
on it.
there's a lot we don't know.
Yes.
And we will get better, hopefully. But thanks for
Yes.
watching.
Yeah. Thanks. All right. Cool.
Cool. Yeah. See you in the Discord. Follow us. Like and subscribe. We'll be posting things on YouTube as well. Adios.
Adios.